Today we're talking about how to raise your commission checks from 10 grand to 100 grand. Number one is do the math. You have to do the math in order to understand exactly how to earn more commission. So if we go back to the example of earning a $10,000 commission check, what you want to do is you can think about it like this. A $500,000 deal on average at a 2% commission earns you around 10,000 bucks. This is a very normal thing, especially in the residential industry, that is very, very common. Now, if you want to go from a 10K check to a $100,000 check, you got to start with doing the math. Understanding at what price points and what commission amounts actually make $100,000. So just so you can kind of see this broken down, I want you to see it from a 2% to a 6% commission check. So at 2%, that's $5 million. At 3%, that's $3.33 million. At 4%, that's $2.5 million bucks. At 5%, that's a $2 million deal, and at 6%, that's like a $1.67 million deal. So you can see that if you can earn 5 or 6% commission on every deal, it actually allows you to do it on much smaller properties. You know, did you ever realize that all you had to do was do like about a $1.7 million deal to make $100,000 if you made a 6% commission? It's a lot more attainable than you realize sometimes. So once you've done the math and realize that, okay, well, if let's say on average you're earning a 5% commission check, it's a $2 million deal, you now can move into the next phase, prospecting daily. So agents who are on average only prospecting 30 minutes to an hour a day have less opportunities, if you do the math, right, than someone who prospects typically somewhere between 3 and 4 hours a day. So especially if you're in the beginning parts of your career, which I even say the first few years of your career, I would err on the side of prospecting 3 to 4 hours a day, every day, at least 5 days a week. Because what you're trying to do is that you're trying to build up a new routine, a new schedule, new daily habits. Where you're creating these better habits where over time, you don't need to work so hard to make sure you're doing it because it just feels natural. And if your average competition is making very little calls or maybe 30 minutes to an hour a day, by doing 3 hours or 4 hours a day absolutely at a minimum, you're at least giving yourself this barrier, right? You're giving yourself this wall around you which basically says, hey, I'm gonna generate leads no matter what. I don't care if the rest of the world is making their calls. I'm gonna be okay. And it starts with making your calls every day. Okay, the next most important thing on the list, the lead list you pull when you prospect. When you're pulling a lead list, you must realize what you prospect, you sell. It all starts with that lead list. So it's important to note that if you want to increase your commissions, here's a couple key things to keep in mind. Number one, prospect 50% at a minimum at a larger price point than you are now. Okay, so that means if you're typically on average, let's say in 2023, your average deal size was $500,000, I would typically only be prospecting $750,000 deals and above. Matter of fact, I'd even probably tell you to do $1 million plus, okay, because the price point's so small. However, if you're already doing, let's say on average $2 million deals, start with at least minimum $3 million deals or $4 or $5 million deals. Depends on what you pull. It's also important to note that if you're gonna try to organize by square foot, something like Reonomy or even CoStar isn't always accurate. So realize that you might be cutting out a lot of deals that could be lucrative for you to be targeting, but it just aren't being added to the list because you're sorting by square footage. And now I've seen this a lot of times, especially with Reonomy, where the square footage is inaccurate, which isn't always a horrible thing, but sometimes in the past, I've sorted things by above a certain square footage, and it's important to note that a lot of the time Reonomy just has 0 there, or nothing, it's just blank, and it will remove those even though the property might be 100,000 square feet and be something you want to target. So keep in mind that square footage is not something that I would recommend. And the last thing I just want to mention is if in your hyper local market does not have the price ranges you desire, I would recommend increasing or expanding the geographic location, right? So just keep in mind, it's about the list that you pull. Point number 4 for increasing your average commission check is upgrading your network. If your network right now is struggling to earn $100,000, they're gonna really struggle referring you deals that will earn you $100,000 a deal. So you gotta realize that your network of individuals that you're playing around with, right? Like the people you spend a lot of time with, the people that you spend, going out to dinners with, getting coffees with, spending life with, those individuals, if they're not a certain quality of individual, it doesn't mean you have to spend all the time in the world with them. I love my friends from high school. Like, I'm not gonna ask them for a $2 million deal referral because they probably don't know anybody. You have to spend adequate time with everybody. So it's important to understand, like, though I might love someone, doesn't mean I have to spend every waking moment with that individual. And if people who are worth, again, some of the people that I met recently are worth hundreds of millions of dollars and incredibly amazing people, and I'm very appreciative for our relationship. And guess what? I want to spend a lot more time with those individuals because it raises my standards in my life. And when when we try to do a deal together, or they might refer me to one of their friends, it's probably going to be a $10 million referral. So it's like, think about it logically, like, hey, if I want larger referrals or higher price referrals, who is going to be able to give me those types of referrals? Well, it's probably going to be a different quality of individual. And it's like, well, how do I meet those people? Well, you too might need to change, right? Because the you that you are today, though everyone is amazing and whatever you want to say, you might not be the type of individual that a person of that caliber might want to network with. And until you are, right, it might be a little bit more difficult. And I'm not telling you to just jump from, networking with some, like people like your barber all the way up to a billionaire tomorrow, but I am saying, hey, there is an in between, right? There is a person, like, what's that next level individual you need to start networking with? And just keep in mind that, like, you need to constantly be up leveling the network you spend with. Every year, I want my network's net worth to constantly be improving, because your network has a net worth, right? An average net worth of the people you spend time with. If that, like, the group of people you spend time with is, let's say that average net worth is maybe $100,000, who do you think they're going to refer you to? Probably people who are also making around 100 grand, or have $100,000 net worth. But if that group that you're spending a lot of time with, that network, has an average net worth of 5 million or 10 million or 20 million bucks, what kind of referrals do you think you're going to get then? A much different level of individual. So just keep that in mind. All right, number next is deal structuring and negotiations. Now, this is really important to hear for a second. If you would like to do larger deals, you need to know how to deal structure appropriately, which is also going to include underwriting properties, which, again, I know we have several other videos that we've done that. But when it comes to deal structuring and negotiating, being able to negotiate better as a broker is going to be incredibly lucrative, because think about it like this. If a seller says to you, listen, I'm only willing to pay you 3% commission and I need to net 2 million bucks. You go, okay. So if I was able to get you a deal where you net 2 million bucks and the buyer is willing to pay me an additional commission so I can make 6% like I'm looking for, would you be totally against that? More likely than not, the answer would be no. So keep in mind that now it's up to you to negotiate a deal with a buyer and with the seller to say, hey, maybe Mr. Seller, negotiate with them to see if you can get them down to 195, and then you maybe can get a seller to 2,050,000, where you can try to squeeze in a 5% commission for 100 grand, or you get up to 2.1 and you can make more. So it's just finding those opportunities where you can do that. And listen, as long as the seller's okay with netting X commission and the buyer's willing to pay X price, the number is irrelevant. Everyone's happy. It's just got to be a win-win-win situation. So as long as you can negotiate a great deal for everybody involved, most of the time you can earn a 5 or 6% commission, or possibly more. So last thing I want to mention when it comes to increasing your commission sizes is the following. Realize that it's a long game, people. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you have any more questions about how to increase your commission checks so you can go out there and earn some six-figure checks, drop a question in the comment section down below. I answer every single one of the comments. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, everybody.